Hey, baby. Adam here from Tested with my new baby. Yeah. Astute watchers of Tested might have seen this little guy behind me or behind various shoots over the past few months, and it's time to finally unveil him to the world. This, for those film buffs among you know, is actually Starchild, the baby at the very end of Stanley Kubrick's 2001. This is, I believe, supposed to be Keir Dullea, Understanding the Mysteries of the Universe. At any rate, this baby was sculpted by my friend Steve Neill. Now, you might remember Steve Neill. He sculpted another piece of 2001 ephemera that I wore last year to New York City Comic-Con, and that was the Moonwatcher ape mask with the jaw mechanics that were so awesome. Steve and I regularly emailed back and forth about things that we're obsessed with, and when he was thinking about making the baby, it turned out that I had all this incredible reference material. The actual 2001 Starchild baby sculpt is traveling around the world as part of the Stanley Kubrick exhibition. I have seen it now in 4 different cities and have photographed the baby in every one of those cities. And in one of them, it is actually visible almost all the way around. And I took a set of high-res photos moving about 10 degrees each time. So I had some amazing reference material that Steve was able to draw upon and get this right. And still, it was a real butt kicker of a sculpt, he told me, to get the face to look just weird enough, but I think he did it. Now, I didn't receive the baby in this state. Oh, no. Steve, who cast the baby separate from its arms, actually put them together and sent me a completed fiberglass casting, but that still required a fair bit of finishing, like any casting does out of the mold. And so a friend of Tested, Kayte Sabicer, spent maybe more than a dozen hours loading this up with primer and sanding it and smoothing it. And then once Kayte was finished with all the smoothing, it was time to give it a color. And I found that Benjamin Moore color Fresh Peach was actually the closest to what really looked like the color of the baby in all the different photos I have, which of course were all taken under different conditions. That kind of problem solving can be really difficult, but I am pleased with how it looks. Now, once I was done with the outer shell of the baby, it was time to deal with the eyes. And this was tricky because neither Steve nor I were clear on how big the original eyes were. And you might not know this, but the eyes of the original baby moved. There was a mechanic inside so that as that shot was happening, the baby's eyes moved. So the eyes were their own particular journey. First off, Steve Neill and I weren't sure whether the eyes were normal size, like 32 millimeters, or whether they were extra large, like 34 millimeters. So I ordered some eyes in both sizes. I also wasn't clear until I had some very high-res shots about whether or not there were veins in the eyes. So back when I ordered them, I ordered some eyes with veins, some eyes without. And then I got them all here. Steve Neill actually took a close-up shot of one of the baby's eyes that I had from my photo reference, and we sent that to a company called Tech Optics Eyes, which actually put that graphic into an eyeball for me. Now, if I'm holding an eyeball, how do I have eyeballs in here? Well, it's because I ordered multiple pairs. I wasn't sure of the size of the eyeballs, and I wasn't sure whether they had veins or not, so I ordered them in 2 different sizes, with veins and without. And here are the samples. Now, I will tell you, when you're ordering custom eyeballs like these, they're not exactly cheap, but I have a lot of use for eyeballs in my line of work, and so these won't go to waste. But maybe you've noticed that the eyes of this baby are moving. Well, that's the next thing to talk about. Friend of Tested, Jeremy Williams here, helped me with the eyes. Hello, sir.
Hey, Adam.
So let's pull the eyes out and talk about them, because I love this project. Okay, that's the battery. And the eye mechanics, this is one of my favorite parts about this. Watch this. Dun, dun, dun. Oh. It's magnetic. The whole thing sits inside the baby's head. Ooh, with 3 magnets on the back. Now, we can plug this back in and make it operate. And it's really straightforward. I have a servo here driving the eyes. It moves back and forth. And Jeremy, you built this beautiful, well, this is a purchase circuit,
Right,
right?
exactly. This is a teensy LC. It's a real basic, microcontroller that I hooked right up to your servo that just runs a routine. That you had said that you wanted the eyes to go across the room in about a minute. So I plugged that in. Actually, you said 5 initially, but that seemed a little slow.
It did. I wanted them to move so slow you wouldn't notice them. If you glanced at it, you wouldn't notice them moving, but every time you looked back, it would be in a different position.
Exactly, yeah. And then you wanted every now and then,
Just like it just
for
did.
the eyes to jump.
Yeah.
And I can't decide if it's more exciting to see the jump or to look at the baby, look away, look back, and he's looking somewhere else.
I think the latter is creepier.
It is.
Because when you look at a clock for the first time and it looks like the second hand stays stationary for a little while?
Right.
Like I wanted it to have that same kind of, what's going on with the reality?
It makes you question yourself.
Exactly. And this succeeded in every respect. We've had it over in tested.com and people have been freaking out watching it go. And you specifically chose this battery for a reason.
Sure. Well, your requirement was that it runs autonomously. You wanted to run on battery power for maybe a month, right? So did a couple things. One, I turned off the servo after it moves so that it's not using power to hold position. And then I did some back of the napkin calculations. How much power do we need to make it run for a month? It seemed like after measuring how much current we were drawing, we needed about 20,000 milliamp hours. So that's a fat battery.
Yeah.
So that's where this came in. And the tricky part with USB battery packs is they often shut down. If they're not drawing enough current, like if you're not charging a phone.
If they don't notice that they're doing something, they just shut down.
Like it does you a favor and it turns off.
Okay.
But in our case, we wanted to stay on. So that was a requirement too. So this battery pack stays on.
So we're drawing so little power
Yeah.
that many battery packs would not even realize they're exercising their purpose.
No idea.
Okay. You'll notice that I machined a little acrylic holder for the chips so you don't grab it or touch it as you're moving it around. Just a little bit of some low heat hot glue holds it in place.
That's great.
And protects it, and you get to see the light is working and everything.
That's awesome. And you designed it so that the eyes are not exactly perfectly parallel or symmetrical, right?
That is actually an adjustable value because I have a coat hanger going through the center of the eyes and I have a tightening knob on the back. I can adjust it and make the eyes less in parallel,
right,
which makes the baby creepier.
It certainly does.
And is totally part of the design. Like I want it to be a little upsetting to look at because the real one is a little upsetting to look at.
I love coming in to offer my 1% that finishes, makes what you make, this awesome stuff, come to life.
Well, dude, I tell you, we talked about this 4 days ago, and then you came in 3 days ago with the circuit ready to go.
Well, yeah, you said I said, when will you be done with the eyes? And you said, I'm going to start in about 20 minutes. I'll be done this afternoon. So give me a day.
Also, a little bit of inside baseball. This shell is actually Kydex. It's often used to make gun holsters that you've seen that look like they're vacuum formed plastic. Kydex is great, and it's much better than styrene for a project like this because you can get it soft way before it starts to melt. So I simply heated up a piece of Kydex in my lab oven here in the shop and pressed it into the inside of the baby's face until it conformed. And then I put some magnets in the face, I put some magnets behind the shell, and the whole thing is just lovely and self-contained. I couldn't be more pleased. It's a simple build, but a super effective one.
It's perfectly molded.
Jeremy, I can't thank you enough for adding the piece de resistance that makes this piece genuinely upsetting.
My sincere pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Until next time. Let's get this baby back together. Here we go. Oink. There, and put your thinking cap on. There we go. That baby is done.